I talked about the OSS. It's believed that Donald Barr originally hired Jeffrey Epstein to work in the Dalton School, and Donald Barr had previously worked at the OSS. After that, he was hired to work at Bear Stearns. Alan Greenberg was a close friend of Roy Cohn, and actually was the honorary chairman of a dinner for him that was honoring Roy Cohn, I believe, in 1983. And the other honorary chairmen were other close friends of Roy Cohn, including Rupert Murdoch and Donald Trump. After he left Bear Stearns in 1981, he, according to journalist Vicky Ward, was a financial bounty hunter of sorts, looking to chase down money for governments and powerful people. The Evening Standard of England later reported that during that time, Epstein claimed that he was working for the CIA. Vicky Ward later said that one of his clients during that time was Adnan Khashoggi, who was known to be on Mossad, working for the Mossad. He was also working for the CIA, and he was a major player in this Iran-Contra scandal. Then when, in 1987, he meets up with Leslie Wexner, who has connections to this Meyer Lansky crime syndicate, as I point out in part 3. He also meets up with Steve Hoffenberg, who he allegedly met through John Mitchell, who is the former attorney general to Richard Nixon. And Mitchell was actually cited as a friend by Craig Spence, a disgraced Washington lobbyist who was also running a sexual blackmail operation with children that was discovered in the late 80s. And Craig Spence, in some similarity to Jeffrey Epstein, was found dead under somewhat mysterious circumstances, and his death was ruled a suicide.
So far as we know.
Right. And that takes us up to 1991, which right after that, that's the same year that Robert Maxwell died, as well as several other people that were connected to the Promise Software scandal, not just Maxwell. That includes Senator Towers, also died that year, as did journalist Danny Casolaro, who was investigating that scandal. And soon after Robert Maxwell died, his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, moved to New York and began her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And as I point out in part 3 of my series, Robert Maxwell was known to be an operative for the Mossad and did several favors for Israel over the course of his career, and was also using the Daily Mirror group, some of the funding for that to fund Mossad operations in Europe. So the intelligence links, I think, are very clear, and that's just the early history. We're not even getting in to the 90s yet, and I'm going to be delving more into those connections in part 4 of my series, which I hope to be out in a few days.
I'm looking forward to reading that. But let me just talk about how this all fits together and what it really means. So these last two pieces. I mean, so when you write in the piece, you say Epstein appears to have had ties to Israeli intelligence and has well-documented ties to an influential Israeli politicians and the mega group. We'll talk about that. And it was revealed that Epstein had evaded stricter sentencing in 2008 due to his links to quote-unquote intelligence. It was the Mossad ties to Maxwell's daughter that led to many speculate that Epstein's sexual blackmail operation was sharing incriminating information with Mossad. But one of the things that in the pieces that you write, you use words like appear instead of like we know. So what do we know? Talk about how you make these connections and what we really know and what we really don't know. You know, what's alleged and what's real.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of claims I make in the story, so to go over all of them and say, what appears to be and like definitely what is. What we do know, right, is that our claims that Epstein made in the past, for example, that he worked for the CIA, we know from journalists that are considered reputable sources when covering Epstein, like Vicky Ward, for example, that he had working for people like Adnan Khashoggi, who are known to have been linked to the Mossad. We know that his biggest patron, financial patron, was Leslie Wexner, who has been tied to organized crime syndicates, according to a 1985 Columbus, Ohio murder investigation. We know that he was recording that Jeffrey Epstein was recording sexual blackmail. We know that Alex Acosta claimed the reason he approved that sweetheart deal was because he had been told that Epstein was linked to intelligence, though he didn't specify which intelligence agency. And given, the network and the associations that I've already laid out, which are documented, right? It certainly is an overwhelming amount of evidence, of circumstantial evidence, nonetheless, but or of circumstantial evidence, I guess you could say. But the amount of it really makes a convincing case that this is a much larger network that has documented ties to operations involving sexual blackmail that preceded Epstein, and that Epstein is more because of what we know he was doing, and we know he had ties to a lot of the people that had been tied to those previous sexual blackmail operations. To me, it really shows that Epstein was carrying on an operation that he did not invent, right? This is something that did not begin and did not end with him. And he was just perpetuating this. And I think that's why it's really important to challenge some of the narratives that have come out around this case, that Epstein was solely responsible for all of this activity, and that he had deceived the billionaires who funded him, and that this is all to be blamed on a single man. I think if we do that, we're really doing his victims an injustice, because this is something much larger than Epstein. And if the other people and other parties responsible are not pursued or held to account, this is likely to continue well into the future. And because of the what I would say the disgusting nature of Epstein's activities, I think most Americans have a vested interest in preventing these type of operations from continuing, and especially if intelligence agencies are involved, that suggests that American taxpayer money is being used in some capacity to fund these operations. So
and finally here, I mean, there's two things, there's so much we could talk about here, but these two things, I mean, a conversation I had yesterday is that was around, conspiracy theories are great, but what we need is real reporting and intelligence work, police work, and congressional investigations to see where's the there, and how do you put these dots together so they become fact and not possibilities. And I think that's the important piece here. Is I think you made a strong point when you said you can't just blame this all on one man, Epstein. There are too many other connections out there. So where do you take this then? I mean, so what is this for you? What does this say in the final analysis about what might be going on here? And I know that this is in some ways conjecture and speculation, because even though you find these connections, that sometimes there's nothing really to tie them together in terms of fact yet. So what do you take this?
Well, I think there definitely needs to be an independent investigation. I think a lot of the people that are involved in the current investigations, including Bill Barr, I don't think many Americans should be confident in what he will turn up.
You make the Barr-Epstein connection in your in the third part of your series.
Right, yeah. But beyond that, Bill Barr also was known for stonewalling the church committee in the late 70s, and he was particularly trying to prevent the CIA's use of sexual blackmail operations from coming to light for the church committee. I think that's highly significant, as is the fact that he justified the legal pardons of numerous Iran-Contra figures, and including and given the role of many Iran-Contra figures in this network that I describe in my reporting, I don't really see him as being a partial impartial investigator here. And also the fact that he worked for the law firm that defended Epstein later on in the 2000s, I think is just a,
and his father hired Epstein.
Right, exactly. And that he's going to get to the, that Bill Barr will get to the bottom of this. I don't really buy that. So I think there needs to be a more independent investigation. Concerns have also been raised about the fact that, Epstein was trying to blackmail people. Now that blackmail has fallen, whoever raided Epstein's properties, depending on who's using that, it could even be, Bill Barr that now has control over this blackmail material. It's hard to know if he will be using it, if that will just go away, or Bill Barr will use it for his own political agendas now, given his history. So I think that's something to be concerned about. And also the fact that there may be several members of Congress, if there's a congressional investigation, that may have been tied up in this. We don't know all the names. A lot of the documents haven't come out. Now that Epstein is dead, that criminal case will go away. And so a lot of the evidence uncovered during discovery will not be made public. So I think it is necessary for the public to pressure for transparent campaigns, and for other conspirators in this, or co-conspirators in what Epstein was doing, especially Ghislaine Maxwell and Leslie Wexner, that they be pursued and questioned by law enforcement.
Well, I look forward to talking a great deal more with you. And I know you've taken on a lot of very powerful names and people in your piece. I hope you feel safe in what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah.
but I look forward to this fourth piece, and then maybe when we get the fourth piece, we can have a more lengthy conversation and kind of try to tie these pieces together. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and good luck.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
And I'm Mark Steiner here for the Real News Network. Please let us know what you think. Take care.
Hey everyone, my name is Arood Sheikh, and I'm the Development Campaign Manager at the Real News Network. If we're going to stand up to the corporate elites, then we need your help to make people-powered media. And that's why I'm asking you to please donate to the Real News Network. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much.